Court will come to order. It is Wednesday, August the 17th, 2022, and it is exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kerr County Court is in session as a budget workshop. So Tanya's not with us today, so Bob, I guess better to start with you on the, we don't have anything to report on the current budget, I don't think. So we'll be talking about tax rates.
Judge, I believe last week in my absence, Ms. Shelton presented the no new revenue rates to the court. This is basically a summary of what she did present through that. No new revenue rate for this year is 0.4051. That is a combined rate of the M&O, interest and sinking fund, and lateral roads. On the one sheet, I also gave you a breakdown of the adopted rate for 2021 at the top of the page. The no new revenue rate is the rate that will produce roughly the same revenue on the same properties in 1 year compared to the other. Individual property taxes could vary, but through the calculations, that is what the no new revenue rate is. The maximum rate that the county could go up to without triggering any type of election is 0.4802. This is a combination of the no new revenue rate, the various additions that are allowed for, such as housing prisoners that should be in one of the state facilities, indigent health, indigent defense, basically your unfunded mandates, as well as a dipping into a savings account of tax rates, if you will. They allow you a rolling 3-year period that if you don't use a certain part of a tax rate, you can carry it over to another year. So all of this factors into the voter approval rate. To look at it, 1 cent will equal roughly $480,000 in revenue.
Would you say that one more time?
1 penny, each additional penny you'd look at your tax rate will bring in roughly $480,000. This is figuring of a taxable value of approximately $4.8 billion. Break it down, the maintenance and operations portion that you have in front of you would be 0.3373 cents. The debt 0.0425, and the lateral roads of 0.0253. The debt would not change if you were to add the 1 cent or any increment of that. it would be towards the maintenance and operations. The debt is a calculation and added to the tax rate. And lateral roads is a separate calculation, which I've presented to you. So a penny to the tax rate would be towards the maintenance and operations.
So just looking at tax rate, make sure I'm looking at this right. Last year, our rate was 0.4542, and this year, we're looking at the 0.4051. It's about 5% decrease.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A decrease
What
in the
percent?
tax rate.
About a 5 cent,
5 cent.
about a 5 cent decrease, and slightly over 5 cent
Close.
decrease, or slightly over under 5 cent.
Yeah.
And when we're saying no new revenues, the deficit that we have in the present budget, would it come out of fund balance or possibly our ARPA funds, something like that?
I'll leave that up to you gentlemen, but the deficit could come from fund balance, from what you said, or to raise the tax rate.
Judge, I haven't seen a new calculation. I know the auditor's out this week. But we were, as I recall, we were about a projected reserve at the end of the year in the general fund, about 27%.
That was the last figure we had.
Pardon me, let me go pull a file off my desk and see if I've got that information.
Jonathan, he's showing last year's tax rate on this chart is .5093. What's the difference between that and what you're talking about?
Commissioner, that's just a test number, that one, ignore that 50 cents up there, that was just a test number in this that I used.
So it's just the county.
It's just,
Okay.
I can't promise you this is the latest one, but the one I have at my fingertips is as of August 8th, what we were looking at then. And this is if we use 8.57 million of ARPA funds for both the communication system as well as applying it to
Communication.
lost revenues in the budget. Yeah, the communication system. If we did that, then at the end of the year, the fund balance would be, the unrestricted fund balance would be $11,500,000, 37%
37%.
for the unrestricted fund balance. And at the end of the year, at the very bottom down here, we would be the grand total all budgeted funds. We would have 14.8 million, and that's 28%. And we would have a deficit of $3,043 million. That's where we left the budget. And I'm glad I had that on my desk. Of course, this time of year, it doesn't leave my desk. But so with this no new tax revenues, we decreased the tax rate 5 cents. That's a substantial savings right there. Not necessarily saving money, but it's certainly cutting that tax rate. And that would be, we cut the tax rate, I'm trying to remember, 19, we kept the same tax rate we had. We didn't increase it. In 20, we cut it. In 21, we cut it. And this would be the third year in a row that we've cut the tax rate. To stay with the no new revenue tax rate, no new revenue rate. And what's projected is with that, we'd have almost $15 million in total reserve, if you will.
Which is above the state recommended and our
It's at
internal goal,
28%. Our internal goal is 25%.
which is the state recommended amount.
And we've kept it pretty close, between 25 and 30 the last several years. This has been consistent. Done it every time.
Our auditor suggested that the deficit that we've had in the past was generally overcome by unfunded employees, but that's been drifting down some.
Yes.
That's my only, and I don't know the numbers, but I just remember her comment on that, which I'm just on guard about, that's all.
Well, and the way I describe it is every department, we have about, in this budget, we have a hair under $2 million in contingency funds. But every single department and office that budgets, we know you all got little contingency funds in yours, we just don't know where they are, but they're there, we know that. And every year, not all of the money gets spent because not every contingency occurs.
Yeah.
And that is certainly trending down this year. We anticipated this, that it was going to catch up with us, and it has. And that's one reason that I'm recommending that we use some of the ARPA funds. Go ahead and put it in the budget.
Yeah.
If we don't put it in the budget, we can't spend it next year.
Yeah.
The RFP is going out on the communication system here within the next, by the end of the month? Something like that. And so we don't want to put that RFP out there and get bids and not be able to do anything
Yeah.
for 15 months until we have another fiscal year. So I went ahead and rolled it into the budget so that we could use it if we decided to do it. And of course, if we don't, we can always put it back in that dedicated fund where we had it. But that was about right at $7 million for the communication system, if memory serves me right. Is that right, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Right at that. And the other $1.5 million we have in there to bring our deficit down to something that we think is manageable, and we can pretty accurately predict that we're going to be okay at the end of the year because we do have these contingencies. And 2 of that is built into the budget. The rest of it is what y'all don't spend.
And traditionally, Mr. Commissioner, we're also, the auditor was very conservative on sales tax and other revenue sources. We're almost always budget less, take a number and then take a little bit of a conservative approach. So
Okay.
between all of that, we end up with having a budget surplus, I believe all of it maybe 1 year.
Well, but we think it's trending down. We don't think it's going to be as big as it's been.
Right.
It got pretty big during COVID. Of course, everything was shut down and we couldn't operate. But our since you're new, this is your first budget. Commissioner
Last.
Ballou coined, you first and last. Commissioner Ballou coined a phrase when I first came on the court that I've always enjoyed, and then we call it budget culture. Because there's just things that we do, and it's a culture, it's been going on for a long time, and the departments having their own unitemized contingency fund is a tradition that we respect and we live with. The first year I was really nervous about it, but I got to tell you, Commissioner Letts told me it would work. Judge Pollard told me it would work, and it did.
Yeah,
And,
you and I weren't so confident.
But we over project expenses,
Yeah.
under project revenues, and we always keep a very healthy fund balance so that if it turns on us, goes sideways, we've got the money to pay for it. It's just conservative management.
I think another important point, just for everyone, more for the public to understand, is that if it's not in the budget, we can't spend it. And we don't have the ability, like a lot of entities do, to go fund something and mid-year decide we want to do something. If it's not in the budget, it isn't done till the following budget year. So we budgeted for contingencies that we may do. No, we may not do them all. Probably won't do them all. But sure as anything, if we don't budget for it, then it'll need to be done, and then we're stuck because the criteria to declare an emergency are very restrictive.
And we've got, like with the airport board, we've got some things in this budget that we budgeted 3-4 years ago and haven't been able to spend yet. We've been waiting on tech stop. But all considered, I'm in favor of a no new revenue tax rate. I think we can make this budget work. Reduce the tax rate, not increase any tax burden on the people, and improve the services that we provide. And I think that's what we're in the business to do.
I agree.
Anything else for this workshop? Okay, now as I understand it, I just want to make sure we get this on YouTube. Because of a posting delay in the newspaper, we will consider finalizing the budget on August the 29th, not the 22nd. I know there are some activist groups that want to come on the 22nd. They'll be limited to 6 speakers per side. But the 22nd, we're not deciding that issue, just so that the public knows. And I find it interesting that public watches YouTube but doesn't hear us when we say what days we're going to approve the bond election, what days we're going to do these things. So August the 29th is when we're going to consider the budget. Anything else for this workshop? Then we are adjourned.